pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Jeffrey.
Here.
Brubaker. Simmons.
Here.
Davis.
Here.
Kaiser.
Here.
Thank you. Any additions or corrections to tonight's agenda? Hearing none, is there a motion for approval?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Before we get started in our agenda, there's a lot of people here this evening, so if you have a desire to speak to any of the items on the agenda or something as we get to anything else before the council, you will need to fill out a card that's in the back, and then when you get ready to speak on that particular item, please come up and present the card, and you'll have up to 4 minutes to address council. All right, moving on to public hearing, receipt of bids. Number 1, receipt of bids for the airport runway project.
Yes, Mayor, we received the bids for the airport runway project. The current low bid is Emery Sapp and Sons at $5,564,703.
Okay,
We're recommending that you accept those bids.
all right, so it's been recommended to accept. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Moving on to ordinances. Number 2.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I have an ordinance accepting the bid of and authorizing the city manager to enter into a construction agreement with Emery Sapp.
All right, there's a motion for the reading of the ordinance. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? First reading.
An ordinance accepting the bid of and authorizing the city manager to enter into a construction agreement with Emery Sapp and Sons, Inc. for the runway construction at Omar N. Bradley Airport.
All right, you've heard the first reading of the ordinance. Any discussion in regards to the ordinance?
I have one for Tom. The way I understand this, that the entire project's going to be funded by grants. Is that right?
Federal money that comes through on that for 90% is going to be funded anyhow,
Right.
and then because of the COVID-19 limitation was booked for the 2020 year, we'll get that remaining paid out. So it's a reimbursement, we'll have to pay for it all upfront, or along the way, and then we'll get reimbursement. So we'll get
Okay.
a monthly bill, and we'll get reimbursed.
Well, is part of the contracting with, is it Lockmar Incorporated, H. Lockmar? That is paid for, because that's a considerable amount for consulting, and I just want to make sure that we're not going to be out for that.
It was a high amount because of all the aeronautic surveying we had to do for the glide path slopes, way more than a typical industrial project.
Right. But all that is being paid for by the grants.
That'll be reimbursed, we get the bills, we send them in for reimbursement.
Very good, thank you.
Further discussion? Hearing none, second reading.
An ordinance accepting the bid of and authorizing the city manager to enter into a construction agreement with Emery Sapp and Sons, Inc. for the runway reconstruction at Omar N. Bradley Airport.
All right, you've heard the second reading. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, is there a motion for approval?
So move.
It's been motioned. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded. Roll call, please.
Jeffrey.
Yes.
Kimmons.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Kaiser.
Yes.
Motion carries. Ordinance is accepted. Number 3, resolution.
Yes, Your Honor, I have a resolution authorizing and accepting change order number 3 to the contract with Willis Brothers, Inc. for the Harrison and Garfield project. I ask that it be read once for passage.
All right, you've heard the motion for the reading of the resolution. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded. First and only reading.
A resolution authorizing and accepting change order number 2 to the contract with Willis Brothers, Inc. for the Harrison and Garfield project.
All right, you've heard the reading of the resolution. Any further discussion? Hearing none, is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded. All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Resolution pass. Number 4, resolution.
Mr. Mayor, I have a resolution approving grant funding to area civic and charitable organizations and authorizing the city manager to execute annual service agreements with area civic and charitable organizations. I ask to be read once for consideration.
All right, you've heard the motion for the reading. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, there's been a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? First and only reading.
A resolution approving grant funding to area civic and charitable organizations and authorizing the city manager to execute annual service agreements with area civic and charitable organizations.
All right, you've heard the reading of the resolution. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
I'll second it then.
All right, it's been motioned and seconded. All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any opposed? Resolution passes. Number 5, a resolution.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I have a resolution authorizing use of Jacobs Engineering Group as a professional consultant to provide engineering services for water and sewer projects.
All right, there's a motion for the reading of the resolution. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and seconded. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? First and only reading.
A resolution authorizing use of Jacobs Engineering Group, Inc. as a professional consultant to provide engineering services for water and sewer projects.
All right, you've heard the reading of the resolution. Any further discussion? Hearing none, is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
It's been motioned. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and seconded. All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Resolution passes. Number 6, a resolution.
Yes, Your Honor, I have a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with Jacobs Engineering Group, Inc. for professional services, and I ask that it be read once for passage.
All right, there's a motion for the reading. Is there a second?
Second.
Been motioned and seconded. All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. First and only reading.
A resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with Jacobs Engineering Group, Inc. for professional services.
All right, you've heard the reading. Any discussion? Mr. Sanders, so this is a term of how long? A year? Multiple years? Oh, okay. Ms. Calcagno.
Mayor, if I can help out, number 6, or number 5, resolution number 5, that was what we discussed last council when we went through the bid process for a consultant to provide engineering services. So that will be ongoing, that they will qualify as a consultant. The number 6 is for a specific project, and Mary can fill you in on what that project is for.
Okay. Go right ahead.
So resolution number 5 was in order to allow the city to, sorry, and this mask doesn't help. So resolution number 5 was adopting the city's staff's suggestion or recommendation to hire Jacobs Engineering after the request for qualifications. Resolution number 6 authorizes the terms and conditions with Jacobs Engineering for the general contract. On the work session to come, there will be several scopes of work that are project-specific. So this first terms and condition, you asked about the term of the contract, and I believe that it is a period of 5 years that is annually renewable for up to 3 years. So that would have to come back, at that time. But we cannot authorize additional scopes of work without council approval. So every time we do a new project, that project will come before the council.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Davis?
Is each project, is the original umbrella contract going to take care of his fee, or is each project going to cost us an additional fee?
No, there is no fee associated with the original terms and conditions. The fees come in with a specific scope of work for each project. So, for instance, the one that we're looking at for replacing the Sturgeon Street and Rollins Street water lines, that scope of work has a specific list of tasks, and with those tasks is a specific cost.
Okay, I was under the impression that it was sort of, the original contractor was acting as a retainer. I'll go back and read it again.
No, there is no retainer for the original.
All right, thank you.
All right, anyone else? Thank you. Hearing none, is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
It's been motioned. Is there a second?
Second?
Motion and seconded. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to number 7.
Mr. Mayor, I have a resolution authorizing the mayor of Moberly, Missouri to execute a termination agreement and a real estate purchase agreement with Rising Housing Foundation. I ask to be read once for consideration.
All right, there's a motion for the reading. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded. All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. First and only reading.
A resolution authorizing the mayor of Moberly, Missouri to execute a termination agreement and real estate purchase agreement with Horizon Housing Foundation.
Okay, you've heard the reading. Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, I would note, Mr. Mayor, I would note that when we talked about it in work session, it was going to cost us approximately $11,000 to cover his cost. And I see the contract now is $84.76. What caused it to drop, or just he couldn't produce that many expenses?
I didn't have any direct communication with them. That was just the number that was the final number they gave us to recoup their cost.
Great.
Mr. Cutt?
That's, okay. Didn't we discuss that it was the expenses were going to be close to $11,000?
That was the original number, I remember, yes.
I'm good with it. I'm just wondering what the reason.
There may be a few people here to speak about this particular resolution. If you are, then now would be the time to bring your card up and have your
This is the
say.
junior high building.
Yeah, this is about the junior
This is
high
junior
building,
high.
basically.
Could I have a point of clarification, Mr. Mayor?
Sure.
The purchase agreement will turn the property back over to the city, is that what this is all about?
Not back over. The city never did have it, to my knowledge. But yes, it will make it owned by the city.
Okay.
Am I correct, Mr. Crane? Okay. Going once, going twice. Oh. Former Councilman Hazlett.
Yes.
You don't need to introduce yourself.
I should introduce myself, okay. Mr. Mayor and members of the council, my name is Carol Lee Hazlett, and I'm here at the request of others for the concern of historic preservation concerning Moberly's old junior high building, to find out what the plans might be for either preservation or destruction. The Historic Commission is very interested in possibly saving this building, and we do realize the problems that occur if this should move forward. But looking beyond the historic preservation, we should think about rehabilitating this building or part of the building and it would do the best for Moberly. Built in 1877 but burned in 1984 and was rebuilt with the gym being added in 1917. Again, the classroom part of the building was destroyed by fire in 1929, and in 1930 it was rebuilt and served the community until it closed, giving it a very rich heritage, helping to raise generations of Moberly kids. And now bringing it back makes it very realistic and matters in everyone's lives. The roots of a city are what bring people back to retire to their hometown. You take the roots of a city away and there's nothing left. Also, stop and think. Our Main Street dead ends, whichever way you go. Where would we go from here if we don't start something to save what we have? Recently, we lost another business downtown. So if we don't start doing something to bring people downtown, we are going to slowly lose our downtown. But by rehabbing at least part of the old school building into something usable to keep people in the downtown area, we really need to start something positive going. Rehabbing this old building, or part of it, is sustainable development. It is smart growth. Throughout America, the country is realizing that historic preservation does not stand alone. It has a major role in economic development. Missouri is first in the nation for rehabs using tax credits. And studies completed by Rutgers University confirms that historic preservation isn't just preserving Missouri's aesthetic and cultural heritage, but it is increasing economic activity by over $1 billion a year. The impact of rehabbing this building is creating jobs, growing a better quality of life in the area, and keeping part of the heritage of Moberly intact. Whether it be housing, an indoor mall, a place of entertainment such as Dave & Buster's, which is becoming very popular throughout America, everywhere you go. It has food, drink, hundreds of arcade games, TVs to watch games. You know, there's just so many potential things that that building or part of it could be used for. Even with extending Tannehill Park and using at least part of the building to be part of the park. So we are asking the City Council to strongly consider ways and means of using at least part of the old junior high building the best way possible, instead of tearing it down and having another empty space and a lot of lost memories. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? All right.
Tear it down. Tear it down. The city can't afford to.
Sorry, you're not recognized to speak. If you're going to speak, you have to turn a card in up here, and you'll be recognized for your time.
In 1993.
Hold it. Please come.
I can talk pretty loud.
I understand that. Please state your name and your address.
Paula Hayslip, 499 Woodland Avenue, Moberly, Missouri.
All right, thank you.
I think it needs to be demolished. I think it's beyond expectation to get it to where it can be used for anything. In 1993 and 94, in the cafeteria in the basement, it flooded every time it rained. My daughter was a student up there. I'm not against historical preservation, but I don't think this junior high has enough to salvage it and preserve it. Tear it down, make that park bigger. Plant some grass. The city cannot afford to do it.
All right, thank you. Just for the record, this resolution is not forwarding or approving monies for us to develop it, the city to develop it. All we're going to do is potentially, if the resolution pass, own the building and have the capability to look at other options as to what someone else would do with it and use those funds as part of that plan. So just so everyone knows, this is not a resolution for the city to start expending money to redo the junior high itself. All right, anyone else? If not,
Mayor, would you give
Mr.
them-
Davis?
Would you also explain to them why we're getting it back from the original, or the owner, and what he has went through trying to, for the last few?
I'd be happy to, or Mr. Crane, you want to give that a shot? You've got the number of years that has been,
Just want them to know what we're up against here.
right.
So the current property owner, Horizon Housing Foundation, acquired the building from the previous owner about 5 to 10 years ago, and have made every effort through the low-income tax credit program to develop that property. And after last year, they were unsuccessful with that tax credit project again. So they informed the council that if they wanted to purchase the property for what they've got in it, they would sell it to them because they wanted to get out. So they were either going to put a sign in the front yard saying for sale or give it to the city for what they have in it. Is that what you?
Yeah, I just wanted to, yeah, there seems to be quite a bit of interest from the citizens here, and I wanted them to know that looking at the broad picture of what we're up against and what we're looking at, so.
So what you'll see later on in the work session is the developer for the property owner is wanting to do a tax credit program again, application again, which would save the building and give it to the developer, which would then get us out of it and develop the property. If that fails, I think what the council has requested is that we try to get proposals from anybody that might be interested in it. And if we can't find those, then the council's going to have to make a decision what they want to do with the property if they acquire it.
But that's in work session, so let's,
Yeah.
don't skip
Right.
to that.
Thank you, Brian.
So is that clear, at least I hope it is, that exactly what this does? Because otherwise, it was owned by another entity for a number of years, and it stayed in a pretty bad state of condition. And we've got several other buildings that were schools that are still standing, and they're not attractive at all and don't do anything for a neighborhood or the city or anything else. So we don't want to have that. So anyway, we've discussed it at length. We just want to be able to guide the course that this will take. So unless there is any other discussion, is there a motion for approval?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution carries. Moving on to number 8, a resolution.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I have a resolution accepting the bid of SAP Construction, Inc., and authorizing contracting with SAP Construction for excavation and construction of the Kiwanis Park Detention Pond.
All right, there's a motion for the reading. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded. All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. First and only reading.
A resolution accepting the bid of SAP Construction, Inc. and authorizing contracting with SAP Construction, Inc. for excavation and construction of the Kiwanis Park Detention Pond.
All right, you've heard the reading. Any discussion? I did look through this, but I guess I would ask the time frame of when this is going to get done.
As soon as possible. So that part of the deal is cobblestone, is needing inspection. SAP is doing the construction work, the infrastructure for Cobblestone subdivision, which is adjacent to the property. And part of the reason he was doing it for that low of a price was because they are needing more fill dirt on their property. And so they're wrapping that up. They're close to completion, so they need to get something moving pretty quick.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none, is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
It's been a motion, is there a second?
I'll second it.
It's been motioned and seconded. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to number 9, a resolution.
Yes, Your Honor, I have a resolution accepting a quitclaim deed from Christopher L. Hayes. I ask that it be read once for passage.
All right, there's a motion for the reading. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? First and only reading.
A resolution accepting a quitclaim deed from Christopher L. Hayes.
All right, you've heard the reading. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
It's been motioned and seconded. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to number 10, a resolution appropriating money out of the city of Moberly.
Mr. Mayor, I have a resolution appropriating money out of the treasury of the city of Moberly, Missouri in the amount of $1,168,019.50, and I ask that it be read once for consideration.
All right, there's the motion for the reading. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? First and only reading.
A resolution appropriating money out of the treasury of the city of Moberly, Missouri in the amount of $1,168,019.50.
I hereby certify that there is sufficient money standing to the credit of the city of Moberly, Missouri, unappropriated in the several funds covered by this resolution to meet the requirements of this resolution. Signed, Gregory L. Hodge, City Treasurer, City of Moberly. Any discussion of the resolution? Hearing none, is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Resolution pass. We don't have any official reports, Mr. Crane. At this time, anything else to come in front of the council, which would be someone wanting to address the council on an issue that is not on the agenda? And I see the clerk says there's 2 cards. 3 cards. Okay, so whoever's going to be first, come on forward. Please present your card. Please state your name and address, sir.
Tommy Kitchen, 300 Terrell Road.
Okay,
Talked to you about 30 days ago on fixing the ditch and seeding my ground that was eroding. Haven't had no progress. It still isn't fixed. And I just kind of want to know what the deal is.
well, I think my understanding is that the city has fulfilled what we were supposed to do. Do you want to expand on that, Mr. Sanders?
We completed the erosion control down Terrell Road on the, would be the east end of the property. Rock with sports shops that runs that deep. We're not going rock, because I told me, that was our agreement. No, we did not do that. What about the post? The post, we were gonna bring the post in. The post, we said we would, that was a year ago. Can we step up?
Yes, sir.
As I mentioned in my report to you, the post that he's referring to is a railroad tie post, and our agreement that we signed, and I sent you all a copy of, said that we would replace all the posts that we removed and in the right-of-way. The post you saw there is on the very end run on the south corner of the property. It's a corner post. It was in good condition, so that wasn't part of the post that we originally said we would replace. However, we did agree that we would put in the hedge post that like we did along the project, and so when he came and asked about that post, we did have an extra post. It was not crooked. It was a little bit crooked. He didn't like that post. The posts were brought up for special from South Missouri, and the guy said he would drop off another post the next time he was through town, but he wasn't making a special trip up. And so he's not been up through here. The fence is erected. It's not structurally unsound. The post is still coming, so there's no impact to the property as far as animals aren't going to get out, nothing's going to get in. And again, it wasn't something we originally agreed we would replace, but I said we would do that. So there is a post coming. gets here, we'll put it in, but it's not impacting the property at this time. The erosion, like I said, what I understood was along the roadside there, which is our right-of-way, not Mr. Kitchen's property. We have rocked that, the county, the road district rocked that bottom ditch line, the check line of that, where it was washing. And what was mentioned in the picture the other day was where below his fence line, where the erosion was happening. Crews did go out there and regrade that, and they have put the straw matting down and have seeded that whole area. So that was what I understood we were supposed to complete.
All right,
Tell me this,
go to the mic there, please.
okay, you put a new fence in, you always want to put 2 new posts to stretch off of. So why would you put 1 post and 1 old post? You can't get a good tight stretch. That post has been there for almost 30 years, the corner post. That was our agreement, and he tied into it anyways. And then why do you want that ditch to wash out when it's already got a ditch washed out that deep?
Well, my understanding was the road district is in charge of the ditch.
No, they don't want to do nothing there, so it's the same.
Well, if they don't, but that's, you need to go to them. If it- Yeah, well, if that's their responsibility, I can't speak for them. But if we're,
The ditches are the city's responsibility. They were supposed to complete those originally, but it's the city's responsibility. We'll take care of them as far as maintenance needs to happen. So, I mean, what we're talking about is our city right away ditch. So that's what you're referring to, correct?
Yeah, all down from there, it's all flat. Rains right up to my fence. It's that good operating fence, we got water running right there.
On your fence?
It's right through the fence.
It's on your fence.
It's right to the bottom of the post, so it's sitting right there. I mean, basically.
I sent you all pictures where he's talking about.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like Mr. Sanders says, we're going to put the post in when we get another hedge post, so that's going to
You
replace.
guys wanna buy a post off me? I've never known it to take a year to get a hedge post. They've got them
Well-
all over, and I've got some out there, I'll sell you one if you need one.
I don't get into that dealing. I would say, Mr. Sanders, if you think it's going to be as reasonable or cheaper to satisfy and put this thing to bid, I don't mind doing that, but that's up to you guys to, as far as the actual,
Or would you rather me do the work, fix the ditch, and then send you guys the bill?
no, I wouldn't rather do that, I know. But I'll let Mr. Sanders handle that.
And I've got one more question.
Sure.
Right there, we're building all the new houses there on Terrell Road.
Uh-huh.
They're not stopping the water, it's running over the road and washing out my new approach that they just put in, that Butter put in, that was about halfway done. Wasn't done like it should have been done, but, and I didn't know what we could do there. In construction, they ain't got it, the water flowing like it needs to, because it just, it comes
Probably
over.
already been contacted. I think Stormwater Control is working on that.
That's it.
Those property, those houses there, those rotten. She's still working on that. So the stormwater person, the utilities is working with that guy, trying to get that resolved. That's been addressed.
Maybe future. Hopefully, just like this young lady here said, you're talking about people coming back to Mobley. The reason they're not coming back is because of a lot of stuff that goes on here. They make promises and they don't hold up their end of the bargain.
Well, I think we're trying.
I'm not the only one. I've got other people that hold,
Yeah.
people down the whole road tell you how they
Well,
mess things up out there. This Mutter wanted a subdivision.
Yeah, well, we're not here to go through that this evening, but we'll certainly try to do everything we agreed to do. Okay, who's next?
This is a first for me. so.
Please state your name and address.
My name is Chris Reynolds. I live at 1014.
Turn that mic up so there you go.
I live at 1014 South Fourth. On May the 15th, we had flooding in basements on one whole side of our city block. That day, the truck that pumps out our sewer lines, cleans them out, was out in the neighborhood. After it happened, we were told to file claims, show our damage. and we all did. We were told that they were denied due to an unusual weather event. When I asked to see the weather report, I was denied. I was told that I was not going to see that weather report. I asked for the information for the company that they ordered that report from. I contacted them. They said they wouldn't sell me a copy of it. So I went to the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration's website and pulled the weather reports from 3 stations here in Moberly for that entire month. The most rainfall we had on that day was reported near the college at Edgewood Terrace, which was a total of 2.26 inches for that day. Downtown here, near the Railroad History Museum, we had a grand total of 1.91 inches that day. And out in not Middle Grove, but out near Cater's Funeral Home, they had a total of 1.61. Now, we've had more rain than that before, and we've never had flooding in our basements. My house and my next door neighbors, we also have backflow arresters and brand new sewer lines from the house out to the main. Nothing would have pushed that water past that except high pressure, which most likely happened when they flushed out that drainage line. So, and they said it was because there was rainwater in that, but it was our understanding that sewer lines are sealed off. Rainwater should not get into our sewer lines. If rainwater can get in, it's kind of a concern that raw sewage can seep out. You know, that's kind of an environmental issue. I think my biggest concern was that, not that the claims were denied, but we weren't allowed to see the information that denial was based off of. We were pretty much denied to see such, that weather report, especially when it's available online. So I wrote down, I went through the entire weather radar for that day. The rain started at 12:35 a.m. The heavy rain was over by 1:55, and the rain for the day was completely over by 4:35 in the morning. I don't think, even at the maximum, if the entire town had seen 2.2 inches of rain, I don't think that's enough to push past backflow arrestor valves and put several inches of water in my basement, my next door neighbor's basement. So regardless of the claims, I think it would be a good idea that when we send the truck out to flush out sewage lines, that maybe we could warn the residents, so somebody might be able to be there and keep an eye on their basement to see if water is going to start pumping back into the house. I know one house had sewage come up in it. That's a pretty serious health concern.
So have you gotten a written explanation from the insurance company that represents the city?
Brentwood, the only person that I had any contact with was a lady from Brentwood, which said she was an independent adjuster. And
She's the person that told you they were denied?
yeah, so they sent us a letter. They sent me one via email because I was out of state on vacation.
But were the facts of why they denied stated in that letter?
It was stated that it was from an unusual weather event.
That was the quote.
That was the reason, and that was why I asked to see the weather report, because I didn't think that was an unrealistic concern. I mean, if you're basing your decision as to whether or not I get refunded, because I had to replace my water heater, I have a number of tools. I used to run my little machine shop out of my basement. I have tools down there that are ruined because of it. And not just that, but the things that we had in storage down there, family, heirlooms, things from when my wife's children were little. So I don't think it's an unusual request to see a report that you're basing that decision off of.
I don't know how insurance companies work, so I wouldn't want to answer that. But we're right at 4 minutes, sir, so I appreciate that. What are we missing, Mr. Hodge? Anything? What's that? Okay. Okay. That's what we'll have to do, is do some checking.
So,
Mr. Kaiser?
does he, who should he follow up with, or? Mary will call him? Okay, fair enough.
Okay. Next, please.
name is Linda Foster. I live at 1018 South 4th. And I have a follow-up with what the plumber said happened. I have a report of what the plumber said happened because I have the valve in my basement too. I have carpet and everything that was ruined. Nobody asked to see anything. They said they couldn't. I talked to that lady from Brentwood. She told me she didn't care how much my claim was. She wasn't going to pay a penny. She's got the final say, and nobody on my block is going to get paid.
Okay.
And I also have a letter from her.
Does it give a reason why they're not?
Yes, it does. Would you like to see it?
No, but you might want to give it to the clerk so that if we're going to check on the reasoning behind this.
Would you like a copy of what my plumber said too?
Just give it to KS.
Okay, just give it to the clerk?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh, thank you.
Could I ask a question, Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Davis.
Yeah. It could, this is to both of you. I think you said the rain was over around 4:30 in the morning. And when did you notice that the flooding was taking place in your basement, or did you notice?
I had been to Columbia that day, and I didn't get home till about 4:30. So when I got home, my neighbor asked me, and I said, well, I don't think so, I don't know. And I went down, and yes, water had been in my basement, but it was all soaked in my carpet and everything I had down there. So I do not think the problem happened till the city came out and flushed the main.
Well, that's what I was trying to get a timeline on, is whether or not it occurred right after the rain,
I've
or...
never had a problem with that before, and we've had heavier rains and stuff than what we did that time.
Sure. Okay. Okay, I just wondered if you could get a timeline down where it happened after the rain or after the flushing
I
by the
can't,
city.
because I wasn't home. I mean, I was home, but I didn't go down and look, because I didn't think there was a problem, because we didn't have that much rain or stuff. So maybe my other neighbor back there can answer your question better than I can.
All right.
All right, thank you. Okay, is that the last card? Okay, one more? Please just wait till you get to the mic so everybody can hear you. Go ahead.
Frey, 1018 South Fourth.
Okay,
4:30 in the morning is when I first seen it come up through the floor drain. About 3 inches, run all the way around another drain, just circling, couldn't go nowhere. I just didn't realize it rained that much, but it was a mess. So I got the sewer tape. I didn't thought maybe it was mine. I didn't know. So I run 100-foot of sewer tape down a 75-foot drain. I said, well, I'm either going uptown or out of town with it. So I went out to the city out there, and I told the old boy, I said, something ain't right, because I didn't hit nothing with the tape. Obviously, there was no blockage. He said, I'll check it out. And in the afternoon, about 2:30 or 3, they come out and jetted out, or whatever you call it. And it was down by the floor drain. It went down. So obviously, there was a blockage somewhere, and he knocked it out or something. So I went out, and he was coming up the street, and I told him, I said, hey, you got it. It just went down. That's about 2:30 or 3 in the afternoon on the 15th. And why they come back the next day, I do not know. It jetted again. That I don't know. But it's a mess when it comes backwards, I guess.
but if I'm understanding this, did they do any cleaning or jetting out the day before? Because if you said it was coming up at 4:30 in the morning,
4:30,
all the other,
Friday morning.
the pumping truck was the day after, so how did that?
Twice. They jetted
But you're
twice.
saying after the flooding came up in the basement, not before?
The flooding was coming up in the basement.
Correct.
In the basement,
Before the city pumped anything out?
right.
So,
4:30 in the morning. At approximately noon, I went out to the city barn, and the guy said, I'll try to get out this afternoon, because there was nothing, when I run the tape in, it ain't hitting nothing. It's obviously, it's just water. Somewhere it had to be blocked, I assumed. I figured they could figure that, Then they hit, at about 2:30 or 3 that afternoon is when they jetted it. And I had to be down there by the drain, and it
Okay.
went on out. So they blocked it, they cleaned it, 2:30 or 3 on Friday afternoon.
okay,
Then they come back the next day, Saturday, and jetted it again, and why, I don't know. But I had a big bidet down in the basement that time. It blew water that high up out of the stool. So
Okay.
I don't know.
all right. Well, we're
Anyway,
going to try
it
to get
sucked.
some answers.
Clean all that crap up, throwing it away, Mom
Yeah.
worked her hiney off, clean all it up.
Yeah, sorry.
And that Brentwood there, I don't know what they are.
All right, well, we're going to try to get some answers. That's the best I can tell
I
you.
just like to know what really happened, you know, I know it rained, okay, it rained. But if water's coming in, is sewer going out? And what the block, because there's 6 houses that got it, and the 7th one, in the same block before the manhole, didn't get nothing. So that tells me, between 6th and 7th house, there was a blockage, in my opinion, right? You see what I mean?
Yeah, I understand.
It was going down, you know, the sewer line ends at the first house.
All right.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Kimmons?
Yes. If I could ask a question, and really for everyone that's had this problem. Just a question. Did you by any chance turn this claim in to your homeowners?
No, they won't do nothing about it. They don't. They asked, Linda did,
I know you have to have an endorsement for backup of water and sewer. The reason I asked that question was to see if there might have been another adjuster on site to give us a different perspective than what we've heard. Yes, ma'am. If it's all right with you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah. Yeah, come on forward.
I don't know.
Thank you.
I moved mine because everybody told me it was no use, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I'll give them a call and see, you know.
I did turn mine in to homeowners, and they would not take care of it.
Because-
I had damage, but I have you have a deductible.
Well, and do you have the endorsement for backup of water and sewer on your homeowner's policy?
Well, I guess not.
Okay, so there's not going to be.
I guess not.
Okay, all right.
But I did check, the lady from the place you all have told me to turn it in to my homeowners, and I told her I did, so.
I was just hopeful we would see another point of view
No,
from
I
the
had, no,
adjuster.
it didn't do any good.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you, sir. Okay. Madam Clerk, is that the end of the cards? All right, unless someone has one that we don't know of, we'll move on to consideration of approval of renewal liquor license applications.
Okay, we have Aldi's Case and Keg, FL, 7th Avenue, Vertigo, VFW, Moose Lodge, Itago Express South, and Fiesta, and they all have the necessary signatures.
All right, questions from the council?
I move we accept.
All right, there's a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and seconded. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. They're passed. Moving on, I guess that's everything we have this evening, and I would entertain a motion to adjourn to work session followed by the closed session. Is there a motion
So
to that
moved.
effect?
I second it.
Motioned and seconded. Roll call, please.
Jeffrey,
Yes.
Kimmons,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Kaiser.
Yes.
Motion carried. We're adjourned from regular council, and we'll call the work session meeting to order, and we'll immediately go to the agenda on the work session. Number one, a resolution approving social media training.
Yes, Mayor. Chief Link met Mark Vitaholz, who's a social media attorney, at a conference that he attended, and after reviewing our policies and the training that we provide for our employees with regards to social media, we determined that it's probably a good idea to go ahead with that training and a policy review. That policy review is going to be about $1,000 to look at our current policy, then have a dialogue with the city about a new policy, and then $9 per employee for the training, the online training. And I think there's a one-time setup fee for about $300. So we would ask that you all move this forward to provide a majority of our staff the necessary training in case they are online or representing the city online, so that they're properly trained.
Questions? So
Support it.
would this, so when we talk about social media, you're talking about them acting in official capacity for the city on social media, or are you talking about also their own personal interactions?
It covers both. It covers both.
Covers both.
Because there's a really, if you've looked at some of the case law that's coming up right now, you'll see there's a very fine line between your personal opinion and representing the city.
All right.
Yeah, it's good. Good idea.
So he's also going to review the policy and that, because I know there's, the firm that I work for doesn't allow me to have my corporate logo on my Facebook page, because then it looks like I'm representing them. So then you're going to address that in that whole fell swoop.
They go through all that.
Okay. Anyone opposed to moving that forward? All right, then that will move forward to the next meeting. Moving to number 2, a change order number 1 for the Fisk Avenue RTP project.
This is a change for the Upper College parking lot. I wish I'd taken a picture of it. I do have pictures of it, but I don't have it up here. The upper entrance to the college parking lot off Fisk Avenue it was concrete, and we initially contemplated just having the sidewalk tie into that and going across there. However, it was starting to develop some cracks, and some of the blocks were starting to move with the broken cracks, and the college also agreed to fund the approach replacement behind theirs where it was broken up even worse. So we asked to do a change order on there to replace that approach, and that makes the sidewalk across that flat and uniform. You know, we had new sidewalks all the way up to there and didn't want to have that broken approach where it was starting to heave. So that's what that $3,500 is for.
All right, questions? So is that our net cost, or is that the total cost of the whole thing, and then they're reimbursing their part to us?
They paid separately. They had several driveways and on houses and stuff done, so that's our net, that's our total cost. 35 is us. They paid about the same amount of money for the backside.
Okay. All right. Any questions? Anyone else? Anyone opposed to moving that forward? All right, we'll move that forward to the next meeting and move on to number 3, review of change order number 1 for the Route M Phase 2 pedestrian bridge.
This one was, there was no extra things added to this project. It was a unit price bid, and the engineer, I've added a copy of their letter. I asked them for an explanation of it because you see it's a high percentage. When you look at this portion of the project, they put in quantities based on a typical small pedestrian bridge, but in their standards, they also said that the contractor must construct the footings and abutments according to the manufacturer's specifications. And on this particular bridge, they had a high volume of rock. And so if you look on the quantities there, you can see the biggest chunk of that is aggregate and concrete and steel related to the bridge abutments. So it wasn't anything we added or changed as far as it's the same thing as we originally planned to it. It was just the quantities ran long from what the engineer had put in their specs.
All right. Questions?
Is this I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Is this the last we're going to see on this project for cost?
Yes.
This is like the never-ending project.
Nope, I agree with you.
Okay, so this is it?
This is it.
Famous last words.
I heard that there was going to be a resolution, call it the Tom Sanders Memorial.
The memorial, yeah.
Let's
So
not
we
name
might
it.
not see any more costs, just a little more discussion.
Let's not name it for a while.
Yeah, put the toll booth in.
All right. So everybody's good with that? We'll move it forward. Moving on to number 4, an ordinance amending ordinance number 9587.
It was Quicks Road previously, and it extended all the way to the YMCA.
So the Y wants it to be Shepherd Boulevard.
It should have been included, and just, I apologize, I'm not used to that being, it just feels like the driveway to the YMCA, and I didn't think to include that in there, so this is just cleaning that up, and they were already, thought they had that address and had called the post office and asked for that change. And so they're aware of it, and, yeah.
Yeah, I get it. Questions, anyone? Anyone opposed to moving that forward?
So,
All right.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
is everybody on board with this? I mean, why everybody that's going to be affected?
We had sent notices, we were required to send notices to everybody. There was only like 5 addresses, the school being 2 of them, 1 property owner, and a concrete plant, and there was only 5 addresses that are labeled on both Quicks and Pig and Bun. So they were all notified in advance, and the YMCA, like I said, was actually the ones calling the post office, wondering why their names hadn't changed. They had anticipated that, so.
Okay. So no, there's no opposition to it.
No, we've not received any, like I said, we sent out notices, we had to wait for a period of time because of legal things to change the names, and got no responses, no negative.
Okay.
All right, so that moves forward to the next meeting. And we move on to number 5, an ordinance repealing section 40-715.
Oh, yeah, sorry, so this was just cleaning it up. We were looking at the regulations, and so there was ordinances that had 2 sections, and they were conflicting. One showed no parking along the west side of Gratz Brown, and one showed an exception for a chunk there by the high school. So we cleaned that up, and Randall has taken all these pieces and put it into one, which is going to essentially have no parking on the west side or east side of Gratz Brown from Rollins all the way to McKenzie. It used to go to Logan. This is going to include, so it'll be no parking. We had buses that were having to jog around both sides of parking. So this will make the parking available on Logan, or excuse me, on Gratz Brown from Rollins down to McKenzie. As you see there, that red stripe. Yeah. So this was no parking already, or this was parking already. This was allowed parking on both sides. So this is Logan Street, so now Logan will be no parking on this side all the way up to Rollins. So it'll be uniform all the way on one side, so you can park on the east side, not on the west side, from Rollins to McKenzie. And then this is in front of the high school. This little segment right here by the stadium allows parking. There's 1,100 feet here. Otherwise, there's no parking on both sides of Gratz Brown through this segment. This is McKenzie down to Route M, and that's what they used to say. So this was the one that was in conflicting because it used to say that this was no parking on both sides all the way through here. So we just cleaned it all up, and this is what we'll end up with. That makes sense, or am I confusing you? I'm sorry.
Mr. Kaiser.
That 1,100 feet, that's still going to be there in place, is that correct?
Yes.
And is that used for football games and sporting events today?
Yes.
So people do park out there?
Yes, they do park out there.
Okay, fair enough.
And not lately, but yes.
Okay, anyone else? Anyone opposed to moving that forward? Any further explanation from council? No?
I'm okay with it going.
Mr. Thompson, is there anything else you were going to add on this? Okay, thank you. All right, so anyone opposed to moving that forward? None. We'll move that forward to the next meeting. Moving on, discussion of a draft source water protection plan for Sugar Creek. Discussion, that's a good word. I got my stopwatch on it.
I couldn't read it in that damn time.
I hope
So
you'll
we
have
have
your
dinner
book.
ordered in while we're waiting on that?
There's going to be a test. Did you bring your book?
Did not.
No, I have it at
So-
home.
My dog ate it.
No, I'm kidding. The city, because we didn't want to have a public meeting to talk about the source water protection plan draft, we did a webinar for anyone who was interested. That webinar has been posted on the city's website, so people can still go in and view that. This document and all the data is also online on the city's website for anyone who wants to take a look at it and see what it is we're talking about. We have asked for public comment to the draft source water protection plan by July 15th. At that time, we'll give all of the comments to BAR. They will develop a final draft, and then we will bring that to the city council for your blessing before we send it to DNR the 1st of August, hopefully. So that's just basically, we wanted to bring it to you tonight. So in case you do have questions, I'm happy to answer them or try and get answers for you.
I will say, I did hear your comments on the radio. Won't say which one, but one of the things you did emphasize, and I think it was very important, it was that it was a voluntary, not a mandated thing. You weren't putting another mandatory regulation on, and I think that's important for everyone to know that up front. So I just wanted to compliment you on that. So, anyone else? Mr. Davis?
Yeah, Mary, I did wade through it to the best of my ability until I nodded off a couple times, but, and the thing that hit me was the amount of sediment that's in the bottom of the, and how much volume it's taking up in our ability to store water. Is it 12 feet? Is that the amount of sediment that, or is that a?
They're saying there's 12 feet over the fixed bottom intake at the dam. Matt, accurate, and so we're looking for a way to verify that without putting somebody in like concrete shoes and dropping them over the side of the boat. But the important number is that we have gained between 18 and 24 inches over the entire bottom surface of the lake. And so in the last 15 years, we have displaced about 75 million gallons of water in sediments in the lake. And that's why this is so important, is because we need to slow that rate of sedimentation down to preserve our water capacity.
Well, is there, I mean, most of the report, or the part I was focusing on was focused on how to slow it down. Is it feasible to go in there and dredge it out like they do the Missouri River and the Mississippi River?
It is technically feasible. It is extremely difficult environmentally because you have to have some place to put that material once you dredge it out, and that can be a challenge. And the other challenge is the cost. And so I asked for an estimate about just, you know, if I wanted to put something in the budget, how much would it be? And I was told between $10 and $30 million. And so that is an awful lot of money. And so we think that there are some other options. And, you know, until we start flushing things out and find out what cost share is and things like that, you know, I hate to get too far ahead of myself, but we are looking at other options.
Mr. Kimmons?
Mr. Kaiser was ahead of me, I believe.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's fine.
Go ahead.
My question, you said 75 million. How many gallons do we use a month? I mean, how much?
Our average right now is just over, we're at about 1,050,000 gallons a day.
A day, so
Our
you're looking at.
peak can get up to 1.8 if we've had a really big leak and we're trying to catch up or doing a lot of flushing of the system. Normally, our summertime peak is 1.3 or so.
So 75 million is a big loss considering our capacity.
And that's, so the way that they do the modeling for the lake for the fixed yield capacity is during the year of record drought. So a worse situation where it's not rained for a year or more, that's what we look at, because that's what we have to plan for.
Sure. Okay.
All right, thank you. So do we need to move? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, Mr. Kimmons.
First of all, I was really pleased with the stratification on gathering information and getting those different levels of committees. I thought that was helpful. But, you know, post-80 drought, okay, when we were down to maybe 90 days potable water, something like that, and learned there was no help program out there, we did a lot of research and we hired a consultant to find and look for areas for expansion or building a future reserve or reservoir. And I would hope that information hasn't been lost.
It is not, and in fact, DNR, one of the things that precipitated this study update was DNR did a study back, it was released in June of 16, I think, that basically outlined what the water supply options were for north central Missouri. There are a lot of communities that honestly are facing water shortage during the drought. And even in 2018, when places north of us were not seeing the rain that we got, some of them were within 30 days of not having any water. So they were putting pipes together over the top of the ground to try and figure out how to get their reservoirs back in water. So that study, when I read that study, said, oh, we need to drag this back out and figure out what we can do now to be more proactive instead of waiting until we're facing that 90-day, oh my God, what do we do? So that was the effort for this. And they outlined all of those different, the Missouri River, building our own reservoir, Long Branch Lake, so all of those options.
In fact, we did have options. We had the Little Sheraton, which saved us. What really saved us was a downpour rain.
Right.
I mean, right on the tail end of everything going dry, or right
One
at
of the things that they've recommended is that we put a couple of stream gauges in so that we can refine the model better to know exactly how much water comes in now when it rains. Right now, the best thing we can do is go buy stream gauges that are 20 or 30 miles away. And that really doesn't give us good, accurate numbers about how much water we yield in a 1 or 2 inch or 3 inch rain.
But at one point in time, we were buying, first 3 foot of water from like Long Branch or someplace. Like we did that we had a contract for that for a
I can't
while.
find that record anyplace. We were getting water out of.
It was
East
consigned to
Fork.
us. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. All right, well, I don't want to belabor that because I'm not qualified to, so, but I just remember that we've been down that road, and we have the same problem now that we've had for years with Sugar Creek, particularly when it gets hot and the bottom turns and.
So was that before or after Mark Twain Lake put their water system district in?
Oh,
I think that was about the same
at the
time.
time they were opening that, yeah.
Because Thomas Hill sources from there, do they not?
Thomas Hill Public Water Supply District gets their water from a number of different areas, including Mark Twain Lake. But also
might be a
from
source.
Macon and other places.
Okay,
Thank you, Mary.
I don't want to stop. Okay, we'll move that forward and move on to number 7, request from Mobley Chamber of Commerce.
Yes, Mayor, we received the request for the annual Junk Junction event, and it's going to be September 19th from 5 to 7. That's 5 a.m. to 7 p.m., and it's the 200, 300, 400, and 500 blocks of West Reed, and Public Safety's reviewed this, and we're asking that it be moved forward.
All right. Megan, anything you would like to address council about that? Please come forward then.
This event has been growing each year, so the majority of our downtown businesses do have a positive experience. We've added a car show this year that will be held by the JROTC as a fundraiser. It's an additional opportunity to bring a different demographic of participants downtown. It's also scheduled to be on homecoming weekend. We're anticipating we will still have homecoming at the high school, and football will go on. So we are spreading the event further apart than we have in years past, just to allow for additional spacing for social distancing. We're also going to add hand washing stations and porta potties at each block of the event. We are going to block off the area in front of each retail establishment, each business, if they would like that location. So that'll also clear up our sidewalks a little bit more so that we have more space in downtown. So again, we'll do alcohol sales on the streets by J.C.'s and Eagles. So that went over very well last year and added another, lots more people to the event. So any questions?
Questions, anyone? All right, thank you very much. All right, anyone opposed to moving that forward? Hearing none, we will move that forward to the next meeting. Move to consideration of contract involving the old junior high building. Mr. Crane.
Yes, Mayor, this is the contract with the developer for the current property owner, Horizon Housing Foundation. They were in partnership with Indie Consulting, and this would extend the opportunity for the old junior high to be utilized using the low-income tax credit program for seniors. And I think Randall has some more information on that contract. And I have talked to Indie Consulting. They're going to be here at our next meeting to present their plan and proposal.
I just wanted to point out that what was in your MuniCode package, the contract, was not the contract intended for you all to consider. It's just a straight real estate contract. The contract we are going to propose to them just gives them an option for 2 years to purchase the property, and they'll exercise the option if they're successful in getting the tax credits. That was the contract that we are actually going to put forward to them.
I guess my question is in that, somewhere in those contracts, we need to, I think, protect ourselves so that we do agree to go that way, and then they own it while they propose, or you're saying that they wouldn't actually own it until they were successful?
Correct.
So if something...
Because they don't really want the property.
Right. So if
Unless they get the
something
tax
would happen further down the line there, I think we got to make sure that we still can have it back without them saying, oh, by the way, we want 50,000 for it now, or, you know, we spent some money trying to get this one more time, and, you know, that's the only thing I'm cautious about.
I think you're exactly right, and that was the purpose of the option. We still own it,
Okay.
and we won't give it up unless they get the tax credits.
Mr. Kaiser?
Question number one, is there a deadline this year when they can apply for this tax grant?
Yeah, it's usually, the application's got to be in early September.
Okay, so that's going to make it difficult.
And then they find out in December.
Right. My personal opinion is, my understanding is we have other developers that have expressed an interest in the building. I believe that what we need to do is not enter a contract in with this group. We've tried this avenue multiple times with no luck. I'd rather open it up to an RFP and let anyone who has an interest in the building come in with a plan, present it to the council, and we make sure we're getting the best deal for the city. I have no interest in tying this building up for 2 years, waiting for them to try again repeatedly for a tax thing. We've not been successful after 5. I'd rather get on the table. We can see who comes with a better plan to maintain the building for the historic piece, or somebody comes in with a better plan that means tearing it down and doing something else. But let's open it up, allow any developer to put together a plan, what they would do with the property, what they're willing to give for the property, and let's get the biggest bang for the buck for our citizens and get a path moving forward now, as opposed to waiting 2 years, looking at a building that's falling apart as we watch it. That's my proposal.
Well, first of all, that route is going to take quite a bit of time before you can have anyone make a proposal in an RFQ. So I thought our understanding was we were going to maybe let them have one more shot, which would be within the next 6 months, if I just understood you correctly.
Yeah,
Said 2
they
years.
asked for 2 in the agreement. So if you want to make it just this next round and then open it up, you know, however, I think they wanted 2, didn't they?
And we can move it to a one-year option.
Take advantage of both options.
Yeah.
I mean, if they can get the tax credits in 6 months, does that negate getting the other people to bid, or?
I don't know.
I mean, those other people are going to take time to have to put their stuff together too. So it's not like they would do it next week.
No, we're not looking like next
So-
week, but
I mean, I'm certainly, if it doesn't work one more time with them, then we've got to go a different direction. But, Mr. Crane?
Do you want to table this until the next work session, have him present what his new plan is?
It probably wouldn't hurt, yeah.
And at that time, we can start working on an RFP.
So are they the ones that actually made the proposal to the
Yes.
housing, what is it? What body is it?
MHDC, which I'm drawing a
Yeah.
blank on what, Missouri Housing
Development
Board.
Commission.
Yeah.
So they've been in front of them several times.
At least the last 3 that I've been involved in.
Well, I would prefer to table, and then we can ask them what they think they're going to do different before we decide.
Okay.
I mean,
And then we can start working on an RFP just to be ready.
okay, are you okay with that?
Yeah.
Motion to table?
All right, there's a motion to table and a second. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
And
Any
Brian,
opposed?
I just think to clarify, Tannehill Apartments LP, which is who this contract is with, will be the entity that actually does the development. ND Consulting is their partner for getting the tax credits.
Right.
So,
Okay, are we good there?
Yeah.
All right, so then we'll move on to review of the Cassell contract agreement.
All right, so this was on the council's work session agenda a couple of meetings ago. And at that time, we thought that ESP was going to be the contracting entity for the billing and software upgrade for City Hall. That proved to be problematic for a number of reasons with the conversion of data and things like that. So we are back with that contract before you again. The terms and conditions of the contract have been reviewed. We've been back and forth with Cassell a couple of times. I believe that we've addressed all of the city attorney's concerns. The pricing did not change. The cost for the training, the data conversion, the first year's license, I think but everything involved with getting us up and running, plus the first year's fees, is paid for in the ESP contract that we have already agreed to. So there is no additional cost for that first year for the city. We anticipate that it will take between 180 and 240 days for the conversion. It will be done in phases, so you'll see that roll up, but my goal is to have it done this fiscal year before we move into next year.
All right, questions?
How many people do you expect to have to send out to, is it Utah, for training?
It would be just a core group. It's more of a train the trainer kind of thing. Obviously, Greg and Matt would go, Laura and potentially Cora out of the billing office. I think probably Marva or her assistant, but, you know, just those core people that are going to be using it all of the time would be the ones that we would send.
And is that for a full week?
Yes.
Okay. I'm sure I'll have some more questions by the time we get to the next meeting, but I don't have them now, so. Anyone else? Anyone opposed to moving that forward? All right, thank you. We'll move that forward to the next meeting and move on to review of an EDA grant design scoped by Jacobs Engineering.
So there are 3 scopes of work in your packet. One is for the Morley Pump Station retrofit and force main extension. That is for the sewer pump station on North Morley Street, and it will extend the force main around the Taylor Street CSO as well as the Rollins Street lagoon, so that any waste from the industrial park will go around those CSO outfalls and will go straight to the wastewater plant. So we hope that that will reduce the strength of any overflows that do go out of the outfalls at those 2 facilities, and improve water quality downstream. That is one of them. The second is North Morley Water Main Loop. That will increase what is now a 6-inch water main that feeds the industrial park. It loops around to the 12-inch on Highway 63. That is the bottleneck in our line that limits the fire flow to the industrial park. So we want to make sure that if there were, with only one 12-inch main feeding that park right now from the north. We want to make sure that if there's a break or some problem with that line, that we would have a second supply line to feed that industrial park with the flow that they need for that. The third scope of work is for the Sturgeon Street and Rollins Street water main replacement. This would put in a new 16-inch water main that would replace the problem line in Sturgeon as well as Rollins Street that we have trouble with now. That gives us the ability to fill our towers downtown here.
Okay. Questions, anyone? All right, thank you. Anyone opposed to moving that forward? All right, hearing none, we'll move that forward. Before we adjourn to closed session, I did want to take this opportunity to make mention of the event over the weekend for the 4th of July, and I was out there, and in a difficult situation, difficult conditions with the pandemic, I thought that Parks and Recs did a very good job, and I wanted to congratulate Mr. Bach and his staff on the success of the event, and also thank them for their hard work, because it's a tough day, I'm sure, being out in 90-degree weather and then carrying that thing out, and it went very well. And so I want to congratulate and also thank them for their efforts. So thank you all, Mr. Bach. I think he's about asleep. Yeah. Okay, so if there's nothing else on the work session, I would entertain a motion to adjourn to the closed session.
So moved.
And is there a second?
Second.
And a roll call, please. Yes.
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 All right, we're adjourned. Thank you all for coming.